let's get to the coaches of the year. And these odds are interesting to me. Kevin Stefanski's on top, the top dog as potential coach of the year. And I think to give that just opinion real quick, I feel like Stefanski is the top dog because a lot of people look at the success of that team, as talented as they are. And I think they say Stefanski's been the difference for the culture. And I think the offense and Baker stepping his game up. And I think a lot of people just around the league really like Kevin Stefanski. So I could certainly see him winning that award as long as the Browns are what we expect them to be. Obviously, Sean McVay is a clear, option, but I actually wouldn't bet on him this year just because of the addition of Matthew Stafford makes the narrative less on McVay and more on the quarterback taking that shine away. Because you got to think, these awards are narrative awards. They're not always like who is actually the best coach, because Bill Belichick would have won it like 8 times. But, McVay, it's a narrative award. Shanahan could win it because if it's Trey Lance at quarterback and they go to the playoffs and it's like, oh, this guy did it with a rookie and stuff like that. Again, Reed would have to go like undefeated because everyone's like Mahomes is amazing. Brandon Staley, I could see that because the Chargers, if he takes them to the playoffs, I could see that being at how bad Anthony Lynn was last year, in my opinion. Flores, if they make the playoffs with Tua, I think, they could make it. He could win it. Sean McDermott is in bold on my screen. Do you see that as well, Jen? And that's because our producer is a Bills fan.
He is a Bills fan. And, you can make the case for that because they actually have increased quite a bit. I don't know if it's going to be dramatic enough this year from last year to be the coach of the year, because I think they're going to be pretty consistent.
Any of those stand out?
I like the Stefanski take because they really have turned the Browns around, right? Like this team, their O-line, first of all, their O-line coach should get O-line coach of the year. Like if nothing else, that needs to happen because it is one of the most impressive offensive lines in the National Football League, if not the most impressive. And that has allowed them to do a lot of different things. I like the Kyle Shanahan possibility, like you said, with the quarterback, also considering how decimated they were last year, right? Because that would be a real
turnaround.
The turnaround of the team, they had to be on the road for a whole month because of freaking COVID. They were homeless. So I could see that. I don't think it's Andy Reid because of those same reasons, right? Because you're so stacked. I also don't think it's Bill Belichick. Well, it could be Bill Belichick. It could be Bill Belichick, considering what they were last year versus what they could be this year. And one of my favorite ones on there is if you see Robert Saleh actually turn in a respectable season and that team competes, right? They don't have to win that much, but if they were close to even, knowing how bad the culture was before and that they were projected to be the team with no wins at one point, that could be an interesting one as well. But I think it is, like you said, it's the narrative. So it's Stefanski, Shanahan, possibly Belichick. One
of them that you haven't said stands out a little bit is Frank Reich, because if he does some magic with Carson Wentz, I think a lot of people are going to give him the nod in terms of you turned this quarterback around who was an absolute disaster last year and you made the playoffs. I think people are going to look at him like, wow, you did a great job.
Yeah. And it's possible, especially considering that they have a relationship too. So it's, it is one of those situations where you could see a distinct turnaround because it's like the devil, right? Like not everybody might think he's the greatest, but what he's really good at, how you how he was successful with you before. So you could see a pretty dramatic turn there. I don't know if that team is going to merit the attention to have the conversation be that this is the coach of the year. Like, I think it needs to be
That's
a
fair.
primetime team. So I think you're right about the potential success with Carson, but I don't know if it's as big a conversation team as some of the other ones are.
There's one guy not on this list that I do think should be on this list, and that's Sean Payton. Because I think if the Saints are somehow good, I think a lot of people are going to say Sean Payton is the reason why. Because, like, they're going from Breeze to Winston, and there's a lot of turnover on that team. And people like myself, I'm just going to be honest, I inherently feel they're just going to have a natural dip. Like, that's just how I feel, like, in terms of their wins and losses. So if that doesn't happen, then I think that opens people's eyes.
I think he would have to, like, do something like beat the the Bucks to have that happen. And you could see it, right? Like, that would be the comeback story of the decade, right? Jameis Winston knocks off Tom Brady, reclaims his, former glory against his old team. If you had something like that happen, no doubt that would be the narrative. And I would be a big fan of that narrative. I do fear that they haven't done enough to get better in other areas, right? Like, because you lost one of the best of all time, and yet I don't see where they've gotten better other than that. So I don't know that it could happen, but if it did, yeah, you're right, he should be on that list, no doubt.
That's the thing, like, with the odds and the betting is always like, you're thinking of what's the chances this happens. Like, you're not necessarily playing what you think's going to happen or what's likely, but, like, what do the odds say? And then you kind of bet based on that. So that's the thing with Sean Payton, is, like, he's probably a long shot. I don't know where he lands, but I don't feel like that's a bad long shot.